The title of Duke of Rothesay and the other Scottish titles which I've had the honour to carry for so long, I now pass to Catherine.
Britain opened its eyes this morning to a reality that no constitutional expert, palace insider or royal commentator had predicted would arrive with such breathtaking speed, because while the nation slept peacefully, King Charles had signed an emergency decree that fundamentally rewrote the rules of royal authority, and the decision was so dramatic, so unprecedented, and so swift that even senior palace officials were left stunned by the velocity with which the monarch had acted. Because this was not a gentle expansion of duties or a symbolic gesture of confidence in the future queen, it was a formal and irrevocable declaration that Catherine, Princess of Wales, would now stand at the very centre of royal power, exercising authority that had never before been granted to a consort in modern British history. And the document that Charles placed on that table carried language so precise and so comprehensive that it left no room for ambiguity. Because it did not merely redistribute existing responsibilities or offer Catherine a few additional ceremonial functions, it fundamentally restructured the hierarchy of the royal household, granting her unprecedented control over diplomatic receptions, state ceremonies, military engagements, charitable coordination, and the strategic direction of the institution itself. And what made this truly historic was the clause that established her authority independently of William's position, meaning Catherine would now exercise power in her own right, not merely as the future king's consort, but as a leader who had earned her place through years of dedicated service, unwavering dignity and extraordinary composure under relentless public scrutiny. And the palace had maintained absolute silence in the days leading up to this announcement, creating an atmosphere of calm that was shattered the moment the decree was made public, because national broadcasters interrupted their regular programming to deliver the breaking news, and newspapers rushed out special editions that carried headlines declaring the dawn of a new era for the monarchy. And the public reaction was immediate and deeply divided, because while many celebrated Catherine's rise as recognition of her years of sacrifice, others questioned whether the king had overstepped his constitutional authority by granting such expansive powers to a future queen consort. Yet the palace remained steadfast in its defense of the decision, releasing a carefully worded statement that emphasized the monarch's absolute right to determine the structure of his household and the distribution of responsibilities within the institution he had inherited from his mother. And the emergency decree had been prepared in strictest secrecy over a period of several weeks, involving extensive consultation with senior advisors, constitutional experts, and legal scholars who had carefully examined every clause to ensure the document would withstand any potential challenge from within the family or from political quarters. And the king had reportedly been determined to avoid the kind of ambiguity that had plagued previous transitions of power, because he wanted Catherine's new authority to be unambiguous, unchallengeable, and permanently embedded in the operating procedures of the monarchy. And this determination reflected Charles's growing recognition that the institution needed a clear succession plan that would protect it against future uncertainty, because his own health concerns had made him acutely aware of the importance of establishing stable leadership structures that could function effectively regardless of his personal circumstances. And the timing of the decree was also strategically significant, because it came at a moment when the monarchy was facing unprecedented challenges from multiple directions, with public scrutiny intensifying, political pressure mounting, and the ongoing fallout from the Sussex controversy continuing to cast a shadow over the institution. And Charles had clearly concluded that the time had come to take decisive action that would demonstrate his commitment to modernizing the monarchy while preserving its essential traditions. And Catherine's elevation represented the perfect vehicle for this message, because she embodied everything that the royal family needed to project in the contemporary era, a combination of dignity, approachability, and unwavering commitment to duty that had made her one of the most respected and beloved figures in British public life. And the decree's provisions were remarkably comprehensive, because Catherine was granted authority to represent the crown at major state occasions, to lead diplomatic missions in her own right, to oversee the royal household's charitable and cultural programs, and to exercise significant influence over the strategic direction of the institution. And this authority was not contingent on William's eventual accession to the throne, because Charles had deliberately structured the decree to establish Catherine's position independently of her husband's status, ensuring that she would exercise power in her own right rather than merely as William's consort. And this distinction was crucial because it recognized Catherine's individual contributions to the monarchy and acknowledged that she had earned her authority through years of dedicated service rather than through her marriage alone. And the emotional impact of the decision on the royal family was profound, because while William had been fully consulted and had enthusiastically supported his father's initiative, other senior figures within the institution struggled to process the implications of Catherine's dramatic elevation. And there were reports of tension behind closed doors as various factions within the palace establishment grappled with the new reality, because the decree had effectively bypassed traditional lines of succession and seniority, elevating Catherine above officials who had served the crown for decades and who had expected to exercise greater influence in the years ahead. And the king had clearly anticipated this resistance, because he had reportedly taken the extraordinary step of personally meeting with every senior member of the household to explain his reasoning and to emphasize that the decision was final and irreversible. And for Catherine herself, the decree represented both a tremendous honor and an enormous burden, because she now carried the weight of expectations that had never before been placed on a future queen consort. And the scrutiny of her every action would intensify dramatically as the public and the media adjusted to her new role. And yet those who knew her best expressed confidence that she would rise to the challenge with the same grace and determination that had characterized her entire public life, because she had faced relentless criticism and intense pressure from her very first days as a member of the royal family. And she had consistently demonstrated the resilience and strength of character that had transformed her from a shy newcomer into one of the monarchy's most formidable assets. And the constitutional implications of the decree were equally significant, because Charles had effectively redrawn the constitutional map of the monarchy, establishing precedents that would shape the institution for generations to come. And legal scholars immediately began debating the extent of the monarch's authority to unilaterally expand the powers of a consort, because while the crown had always enjoyed significant discretionary authority over the internal operations of the household, the scope of Catherine's new powers was unprecedented in modern times, and this raised fundamental questions about the balance of power within the institution and the relationship between the monarchy and the broader constitutional framework of the United Kingdom. Yet the king had clearly anticipated these concerns, because the decree was drafted with meticulous attention to constitutional propriety, and it included provisions that explicitly acknowledged the limits of Catherine's authority, while simultaneously expanding her influence in ways that would enhance the monarchy's effectiveness and stability. And this careful balancing act reflected Charles's determination to modernize the institution without compromising its essential constitutional character. And he had reportedly drawn on the advice of some of the nation's most distinguished constitutional experts in crafting a document that would withstand both legal and political scrutiny. And the international reaction to the decree was equally dramatic, because Commonwealth leaders and foreign governments immediately began reassessing their relationships with the British monarchy in light of Catherine's elevation. And there was widespread speculation about how her expanded authority would affect diplomatic relations, trade negotiations, and cultural exchanges with nations where the crown continued to play a significant ceremonial and diplomatic role. And the palace moved quickly to reassure international partners that the decree did not represent a fundamental shift in British foreign policy, but rather an internal adjustment of the monarchy's operations that would enhance the institution's effectiveness on the global stage. And the public response to Catherine's elevation has been overwhelmingly positive, because opinion polls conducted in the immediate aftermath of the announcement showed that a substantial majority of Britons supported the decision and viewed Catherine as the ideal candidate for expanded authority. And this public endorsement reflected the extraordinary transformation in Catherine's public image over the years, from the shy girlfriend of Prince William who was initially dismissed by some commentators as lacking the gravitas required for royal life, to the confident and capable future queen who had earned the respect and admiration of people across the political and social spectrum. And the role of Prince William in the entire process has also been the subject of intense speculation, because while the heir to the throne had clearly supported his father's initiative, there were questions about his personal feelings regarding his wife's dramatic elevation, and some commentators suggested that William's own ambitions might have been affected by the decision, because Catherine's new powers would inevitably reshape the dynamics of their marriage and their joint position within the monarchy. Yet those who knew the couple well dismissed such speculation, emphasizing that William had always been Catherine's greatest champion, and that the couple had approached the transition as a united partnership dedicated to serving the crown. And the impact of the decree on the royal household has been immediate and far-reaching, because senior officials have been forced to adapt to a new hierarchy that places Catherine at the center of decision-making processes that had previously been dominated by more traditional power structures. And this transition has not been without its challenges, because some long-serving members of the royal establishment have struggled to adjust to the new reality, while others have embraced the change as an opportunity to modernize the institution and make it more responsive to contemporary expectations. And the king's personal motivations for signing the decree have also been the subject of considerable analysis, because Charles had always been a monarch who valued tradition and continuity. And yet this decision demonstrated a willingness to embrace change that surprised many observers, and it appears that the monarch's primary motivation was his recognition that the monarchy needed to evolve to survive in an era of declining deference and increasing public scrutiny. and Catherine's elevation represented a calculated and deliberate strategy to place the most popular and capable members of the royal family at the center of the institution's operations, ensuring that the monarchy remained relevant and effective for future generations. And the long-term implications of the decree are still emerging, but it seems clear that the monarchy has been fundamentally transformed by this decision, because Catherine's new powers will inevitably shape the institution's development for decades to come, and the precedent established by the decree will likely be invoked by future monarchs who seek to adjust the institution's structures in response to changing circumstances. And this flexibility was precisely what Charles had intended to achieve, because he wanted to create a more adaptable monarchy that could respond to future challenges without requiring the kind of crisis that had often accompanied previous transitions. And there has also been significant speculation about the impact of the decree on the broader royal succession, because while Catherine's elevation does not affect the formal line of succession, it does create new dynamics within the royal family that could influence future decisions about the distribution of responsibilities and the structure of the institution. And some commentators have suggested that the decree represents a significant step toward a more female-centered monarchy, with Catherine and other senior royal women exercising influence that would have been unimaginable to previous generations. And the comparison to the late Queen Elizabeth II's reign has been unavoidable, because the late Queen had carefully managed the transition of power within her household, ensuring that the monarchy remained stable and effective through multiple decades of dramatic social and political change. And Charles had clearly drawn lessons from his mother's approach, but he had also demonstrated a willingness to make bolder changes than the late Queen would likely have countenanced. And this departure from tradition reflected Charles's determination to leave his own mark on the institution he had inherited, ensuring that his reign would be remembered not merely as a transitional period between his mother and his son, but as an era of significant reform and modernization. And the public ceremonies and official events that will mark Catherine's formal assumption of her new powers are already being planned. And the palace has indicated that these will be grand occasions that demonstrate the monarchy's commitment to tradition, while simultaneously celebrating the emergence of a new era. And there is widespread anticipation that Catherine will use her expanded authority to advance causes that have been close to her heart throughout her public life, including mental health awareness, early childhood development, and the arts. And as the dust settles on this historic decision, one thing is clear. The British monarchy has entered a new era, and Catherine, Princess of Wales, will be at the very heart of it. And her rise to power represents not only a personal triumph for a woman who has navigated the treacherous waters of royal life with extraordinary grace and resilience, but also a strategic and calculated effort by the monarchy to adapt to the demands of the modern world. And the success or failure of this initiative will likely determine the shape of the institution for generations to come. And what makes this moment so extraordinary is that Catherine herself never sought this authority, she never campaigned for it, she never demanded it, and she never expected it to arrive with such breathtaking speed, because she had always viewed her role as supporting William and preparing for a future that seemed distant. But now that future has arrived ahead of schedule, and she must carry the weight of an institution that is looking to her for stability, leadership, and continuity. And the question that remains is whether she can balance the demands of this new authority with the needs of her family, her children, and her own personal well-being, because the crown demands everything and gives nothing back. And Catherine knows this better than anyone, because she has watched other royal women struggle under the weight of expectation, and she has seen how the institution can consume those who serve it, and yet she has chosen to accept this burden, not because she wanted it, but because she believes in the monarchy and its ability to serve the nation, and that belief is perhaps her greatest strength, because it gives her purpose beyond personal ambition, and it reminds us that true leadership is not about seeking power, but about accepting responsibility when it is offered. And Catherine has done exactly that, and the nation watches with admiration and hope, because in her, they see a future queen who will lead with dignity, compassion, and unwavering commitment to the people she serves. And that is the true legacy of this historic decree, because it has not only elevated Catherine, it has given the monarchy a new sense of purpose and direction, and it has reminded us that even in an era of uncertainty, there are still leaders who are willing to carry the heaviest burdens for the good of others. And Catherine, Princess of Wales, has proven herself to be one of those leaders, and the nation is grateful for her service. And the world watches with admiration, because what we are witnessing is not just a royal transition, but a transformation of the monarchy itself. And Catherine is at the center of that transformation, and she will shape the future of the institution for generations to come. And that is a responsibility she carries with grace, humility, and unwavering determination. And for that, she deserves our respect, our admiration, and our support.